Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. My name is Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff, and yes, welcome to Suzuka for what is going to be round 3 of the No Assist Championship. Of course, round 1 taking place in Bahrain, round 2 last week out in Barcelona in Spain, and both won by Boy Better Know SB Scott, who's currently sitting there in the Mercedes, top of the table, and has done absolutely fantastically to start off the season. But yes, welcome guys. Tonight we race around Suzuka, the former Honda test track, first in Formula 1 in 1987 at the Suzuka track. Of course, there had been races around in Japan before that. In 1976, of course, we were in Fuji. It was the season finale between Niki Lauda and James Hunt for his famous world title win. But yes, Suzuka become quite iconic on the F1 calendar. Feels like it should be a little bit of a staple, and some very, very iconic the corners around this track. Of course, you've got 130R to come towards the end of the lap. That's turn 15 down into the quite tight chicane at turn 16 and 17. So the guys have really got to watch out for it down there. Of course, you're going flat out throughout the entirety of the exit of Spoon Curve on turn 14 all the way down, and it's a 5.8 kilometre circuit, just over 3.6 miles, the fifth longest track circuit of the F1 calendar. Distance to turn 1 from pole position is 350 metres, that's just over 0.2 of a mile. That longest straight, as I just said, 900 metres, just over half a mile on the approach down to turn 16 for the chicane. Well, the cars will be hitting a top speed of 199 miles an hour. It's around 320 kilometers an hour. Full throttle is actually quite a high full throttle circuit. 65% of the lap will be spent at full throttle. Only 10% of the lap will be spent on the brakes. So the guys around here, it will be the throttle pedal will be getting the most amount of work this evening. So the guys are definitely going to make sure they have that their car set up correctly for the right the right downforce around, especially around that first sector, which can be very tricky indeed. Of course, through turn 2 through to Dunlop Curve at turn 7, very easy to run wide or get onto the curbs, and the curbs around here can be lethal. They will really send you in the wrong direction. Equally down up into the Degners in turn 8 and turn 9, you can find yourself getting quite unbalanced through there. So it'd be quite interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on the Suzuka track. Is it one of your favourites? Is it not? It's one of those ones that I feel it goes either way. It's one of the tracks where you can find several people being absolutely lightning fast, and equally some people really struggling with it. Gear changes around here, it's 42 per lap, so over the 50% race distance we'll be doing tonight, it's just over 1,110 gear changes over that race distance, and the pit lane is 413 metres long, just over 0.25 of a mile. It takes about 20 seconds to make a stop around here, so not massively long. Of course, it's a very short entry into the pit lane. Of course, it's just off that final chicane. There is that slight sort of what would feel like a bump going onto the main straight. You get it just after the chicane as you go onto the DRS straight, so that can really unsettle to the car, and we've seen guys in the past really struggle over that bump, equally when going into the pit lane and going onto the main straight, that if you don't have that car set up right, you just get that little bit of unbalance or imbalance underneath the car, that it can really upset them, and you can find yourself pointing in the wrong direction, as we've seen in the past. And the track itself, Japan, it's not been on the calendar in Invictus since season 5, so 2 seasons ago, and if my memory serves me correctly, it was actually Boy Better Know that picked up the win that night too, in his debut race. So Scott, well versed around this track, has done very well. Like I said, he's won both the first and second races of the season, so there's definitely a lot of drivers underneath him that would be looking and trying to usurp him from the lead. So it'll be an absolutely a very interesting race and a fantastic one, I'm sure. And Good evening to everyone in the watching the stream. Already in the comments. Unfortunately, the first comment in tonight is with my co-commentator Sav, who says it's one of his favourites. Won here once in Performance League, demanding track, but it feels so good if you can nail a wrap around here. And you are right. If you can get it nailed on, it is one of those incredibly rewarding tracks. But equally, it is one that can really be quite a bit of a cruel mistress if you do get it wrong. And unfortunately, as you see, Sav is in the comments like that is because it will be just me tonight. Unfortunately, he is, well, fortunately for him, unfortunately for me, he's the other side of the world in Australia getting ready for the Australian Grand Prix. So lucky to Sam, but glad to see he's in the comments. I'm sure he'll be able to give me his thoughts about how the race is going on, and I'll try and convey them out to you lot as soon and early as possible. But yeah, guys, if you are watching tonight, feel free to drop into the comments. More than happy to get engaged and get in chatting with you. It's always good to have you getting involved in the stream and let me know what you think about how the race is heading up. It looks like we've got at the moment 18 races in the lobby as the guys start to ready up. It looks like so. It's going to be a busy track down to turn one. It'd be if I think the first lap you've got to be really quite careful. Of course, definitely going into those sort of S curves, as they say, down through turn 3, turn 4, 5, 6, and into Dunlop curve at turn 7. And Dunlop curve itself is one of those ones. It's slightly off camber. It doesn't feel like it's a particularly hard left-hander, but the curb on the right-hand side, if you get two wheels on top of it, and we'll look to see what the weather was like, because the weather around Japan can go one way or the other. You can get absolutely crystal blue skies, or you can get sheet rain coming down. And of course, we've seen some Japanese Grand Prix in the past struggle with monsoon-like conditions, and so I'm sure the guys will be looking. Of course, we had a wet race last week to start with, so the guys will be looking for that, obviously that blue sky to be coming across the land of the rising sun in Japan. But yeah, possibly a tricky outing for the guys tonight in round 3. Let's go through some of the characteristics of the track. It's a track that's got 18 corners really. Some people would even argue there's 19. They've tended to call that final kink just as you get onto the start finish line the last curve and call it turn 19. But officially it's recognised as 18 turns, and 17 of them are actually taken at no less than 62 miles an hour. So it's only the hairpin at turn 10 which dips below 62 miles an hour, which shows you just how incredibly fast these guys will be driving tonight, really having to hold on to the car. And to be fast, the driver really needs a stable rear end and a responsive front end of that car. So setup around here really is key, but you'll be able to tell if the drivers are really on it, but just how responsive they are through the high speed changes of direction, especially through sector 1, like I was saying, through turn 2 all the way through to Dunlop at turn 7. It's just how precise and smooth they are. That's what will get you the fastest laps around here. And often you'll find the smoothest guys will be the ones that will be up towards the head of the grid, because like I said, it's incredibly easy just to get offline. And once you're offline, especially in that first sector, it almost takes you a second or two to get back onto the racing line and back into the groove, and it'll upset you and your balance of the entire lap. So yeah, the first sector key for these guys tonight. Obviously the only figure 8 track on the F1 calendar. You saw there the bridge heading over, that just crosses over between turn 15 just before 130R and underneath turn 9 towards turn 10. So the second Degner goes directly underneath one of the main straights down towards 130R. An absolutely iconic piece of circuit design, like I said, was used by Honda very early on as one of their test circuits. And equally there's always a very, very strong Japanese contingent with Honda wanting to see Japanese drivers in F1 succeed. And of course you saw Kamui Kobayashi a few years ago make it onto the podium here, which were absolutely delighted the Japanese audience. It's the car setup around here. It's about medium downforce setting, and quite a stiff suspension. So it's a very smooth circuit. The track layout, it often gets relayed quite often, so it's quite a smooth circuit. It allows the engineers and the drivers to stiffen the car, lower the front end, and really go in search of that high-speed grip. And what we'll do is we'll see if anyone heads out on track surfer. We've seen the two Mercedes in the first two qualifying sessions of the season head out nose to tail, go out and set a time on the slower tyre, and then look to go out and set a faster lap towards the end of the session. Of course, on the first race of the grid in Bahrain, they did that almost to perfection, but last week in Spain, it went absolutely catastrophically wrong for them. Both ended up outside of the top 10, although Scott, with a quite masterful drive to get back into a winning position in the end. As we will see, by the looks of it, it's a Toro Rosso that's going to head out first. Is that Tony Y? I believe it may be. So it's Tony Y that's going to be first out. Tony, having said in the paddock before the race, he's not had a massive amount of time on track around Suzuka, so possibly a little bit of a guessing game for the Toro Rosso, isn't that electric blue helmet matching his car colours for the season. As we see a couple of guys heading out on the outlap, we've got the Red Bull of De Lange 93, the Red Bull of Scopefielder, and Joel V520. Equally Mercedes, you've got the Renault 9 in the Haas, and Scott. So both Mercedes are on their way out onto the track as Tony makes his way through to the first Degner, now into the second Degner, and now it's underneath the bridge. There you go, straight full on charge down to the hairpin. One I find is quite a tricky hairpin. It seems the apex seems to go on for ages here, and then you have to get a really good launch off of the exit of the hairpin down now through turn 12 and into turn 13, down into the iconic spoon curve. Of course, you saw the incident between Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen last season. Let's hope to see that there won't be any of that tonight. Tony Y now winding it up all the way from turn 14 down to turn 16, full throttle. It's all about bravery around here. Can you keep it flat out through 130R? And it will be not running out wide. You will pick up an invalidation if you go over the white lines on the exit of 130R. So Tony Y is going to be the first one across the line to start a flying lap. But you see a lot of guys now out on their out laps, getting ready to do an initial lap. We've got 15 minutes and 30 seconds left in the session. Tyre choice tonight will be the red super softs, the yellow soft, and the white medium. So be interesting to see if there are any deviations in strategies, especially between teammates. Do we see people possibly going for the super soft and medium and really going for that risky and high risk, high reward strategy? Of course, you want to start on a possibly, even if you can slip into the mediums to start with and then finish on the supers. That would be a pretty superb way to end your race. You'll be lightning fast as Tony locks up into the second Degner there, coming down into turn 10, locks up again on the front left, but manages to not lose too much time. Obviously, he will be the banker time. We'll see what he does compared to everyone else, as the only ones left in the pits. You've got Sam, Nicky 9095, Stifler 1980, and SJD currently still sitting in the pit lane. So everyone else out on track at the moment. Tony getting a good release out of Spoon there, down that straight, obviously climbing downhill, then going back up the hill towards 130R, running out nicely through 130R there. Now it's getting slowed down, very tricky. He locks up the front right. It's not going to lose him too much time. Now it's good luck and ready for this car to bottom out. There you go. It's a really quite vicious bump there as the Force India of Nicky comes out, and Tony does a 128.5 to start off the lap. He's going to be beaten by Scopefielder with 27.8. We'll look to see who else goes on top. It's a 22.2 for De Lange. Joel does a 128.9, so a slow lap for Joel there. We'll look to see, is it on the soft compounded tyre or is it the super soft? It's the soft compounded tyre for Joel there, and equally the softs for Scott. So GP1 Alex puts himself onto provisional front row of 28 flat at the moment. He's out there in the Sauber. His teammate Never Miss, both new to the league, are currently circulating. Nismax 7 is currently in 6th. He's just done a 128.805, so he goes into 6th position at the moment, making up the third row of the grid. And we'll check in with, and yeah, welcome back to Phil MCFC. After a little bit of time out of the league, he's decided to rejoin us, and we're glad he has. And Phil, back in the McLaren, and he'll be teaming up with Stifler 1980, and he's heading in to say his first flying lap back in the No Assist Championship. It's going to be a slow one for him, so he's going to currently sit the rear end of the grid. Never Miss does a 130.792. Speed Queen does a 133, so going even slower than Phil. Is that on? It's the soft. So Gav Pig there does a 129.776. He goes into 8th place, one position behind his teammate. We've got Yellow in sector 3 currently. Missed it just there, but Renner coming around Spoon now, so running out slightly wide there. Did run 4 wheels over the white line, so possibly might have compromised his lap ever so slightly. Renner, you can see him playing with the dials on the steering wheel there, possibly moving it up and down through the ERS modes, and locks up ever so slightly into the final chicane. Is he going to keep in? He is going to keep on with this lap, so he's going to come across the line, and Renner's on the medium tyres. He's going to do a 130.6, so good lap there for Renner 9 in the Haas. He does himself a time that's currently in the top 10 on the hardest compounder tyre that we have. We'll catch up with Humbo Stone. He's going to come across the line. He does a 129.207, equally on the medium. So the Haas team possibly looking at trying to just set that benchmark on the medium, see what the pace is like, and then if they have to go on to a set of softs towards the end of the session, they will. But good time there for the two Haas drivers. Oh, we got Phil's doing donuts on the chicane there, possibly getting it a little bit wrong on his in lap, so looks like he's managed to stay out the way of everyone else around him. So we had 2 yellow flags there. Looked like possibly we had a Toro Rosso, I may be wrong, looked like it was a blue card that had gone wrong. Could have been SJD. He's out there at the moment. On the medium tyres, we've got a Ferrari that's stopped on track. That looks like it must be Speed Queen. Toro also now coming through that sweeping S sector, now into Dunlop curve at turn 7. That left hander now heading up the hill into the 2 Degners, flat out through the first Degner. In fact, it's a lateral G-force of, it's minus lateral G-force of 4.5, so 4.5 minus lateral G-force through the first Degner. It absolutely throws yourself into it, and it's a good thing these guys have got hands devices holding their necks to the back of the seat, because otherwise you'd find themselves probably hanging out the side of those cars with the amount of G-force that they're able to throw themselves into these days. And SJD now rounding Spoon. That bright orange helmet in the Toro Rosso, heading down up the hill, put as much power into it as possible. Obviously he's on the medium compounder tyres, so we're not expecting him to light up the timing screens, but if he is still going to maintain this lap, we'll see if he's able to get anywhere near Humbo Stone's time of 128.9. Does he continue with the lap, or is it? He does, so he's going to keep going round. And it looks like it might be in the 129s. It is. It's 129.643, so good lap there from SJD. We'll check in with Rick WR88. Always a good qualifier, very good one lap pace. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to quite translate that over to race pace. But Rick, always a good bet to be well in the top 5 for qualifying. Does very well in the fast one lap timing sessions. So Rick in the Force India tonight. Of course, these guys running all equal performance. We'll be expecting to see this is a straight shootout between all of the guys for the best time around the track. Moving to equal performance this season after running in realistic for the last few seasons. It was very popular in pre-season to run equal, so we decided to let these guys really show us what they can do. And there you go, showing him his one lap pace. It's a 128 flat for Rick. He currently sits 2/10 of a second behind Scopefielder, and it shows how quick Scopefielder's time was. 127.8, the only driver at the moment to jump into the 127s. We'll see if anyone else. Tony looks like he's back out on track in the Toro Rosso. Another set of the super soft tyres for him. The super soft tyres around here, they can... It really depends on the setup, whether you're going to get any life out of them. So these guys need to look at their tyre pressures, make sure those, obviously the higher your tyre pressure is, the more grip you'll get, especially through the first sector, but the more you will scrub off life out of them and put a lot of wear into them very early into the session, especially if you're caught in the dirty air and they're getting that hot air from the car in front. As we've got a yellow in sector 1 and sector 2 at the moment, following Tony Y as he heads around, takes out one of the bollards on the entry to the chicane there. Really cutting that apex fine, and Tony's going to come across the line. Does he improve? He doesn't, so it's a 128.507 still for Tony. Scopefielder goes even quicker. It's a 127.6. He's put himself 0.4 of a second ahead of everyone else at the moment. Scopefielder, another one of those sleeper targets for a title run. He always does very well. Came in as the Tier 2 championship last season. He was the winner of that one. Of course, we do run 2 tiers as Delanga does a 128.241. Got yellow in sector 2 at the moment. Tier 2 are the guys that will be running with the racing line on. Tier 1 are the guys running with completely full no assists. So as you were, if you were sitting in the car, those guys will be in Tier 1, and then Tier 2 would be the guys that just get a little bit of help, just getting used, possibly new to the no assist scene, just sticking with the racing line on. And yes, Sab's saying Scope setting the benchmark, and he absolutely is. Scope, he does tend to have these races where when he's on it, he really is on it. He just drives away, and we saw in America last season, he absolutely cruised victory, and it was really impressive from the Swedish driver. And Scopefielder currently tonight, Phil's moved up onto the first row of the grid. He's done a 127.777, and equally Scott's managed to get up onto row 2. He's done a 127.8. So the times are coming down. Obviously the track will start to get rubbered in. It will get quicker. The guys will possibly look at setting one more flying lap come the end of the race, as we've got looked like there was a slow Toro Rosso there. It's allowed Speed Queen to get through. Speed Queen, she's picked up a podium last week. She came in and managed to get up onto the podium. Hasn't quite started the season possibly in the way she was looking for. Obviously our current reigning champion took home the Tier 1 championship and overall championship last season in no assists. Hasn't managed to get onto the top step of the podium yet, whereas Scott's just been untouchable early in the season. But Speed Queen currently sitting in 7th. She hasn't had the best rub of the green when it comes to qualifying in the early start of the season. She's started quite far down in both races so far, so she's definitely going to look at, she's on the red walled super soft tyre, so she's going to look at trying to start as far up as possible. Pole position on here, it's the outside of the grid, it's on the racing line down into turn 1. There's more grip available there, but it's also a downhill start, so you do have to, it's really down into turn 1, first and second fight between themselves, and it's who gets the best run off of the start, because you are going downhill, so you get the momentum going with you. Speed Queen goes across the line. She doesn't. She takes 0.2 of a second off the time, but she still sits in 7th. We'll check in with Joel here. Joel in 2nd Mercedes. Unfortunately for him, another driver that's not quite living up to his potential. Season 5, I believe it was. He did very well. He was pushing Speed Queen all the way through the season, but unfortunately just couldn't quite live up to that last season, and equally this season's just started off just not quite been on top form. We're not as strong as we've seen him in the past, and outshone by his teammate Boy Ben and OSB in the first 2 races of the season. But Joey's got the pace in him. We know that he's quick, so it's all about translating that into race pace. But Joel 520 in the Mercedes tonight, running the 69 car, will be doing very nicely indeed. Currently in the 11th, but he'll be looking at getting much more further up the grid, nearer to where his teammate is at the moment. We've got a yellow in sector 2, possibly a slow car. Only cars out on track at the moment. We've got Tony's on an outlap. Sam and Nicky are both on outlaps now. Sam is one to watch. He's started off his entrance into league with 2 very strong races so far. He started in Bahrain, where he had an abs as Joel goes 7th for 128.1. So good lap there for Joel, sitting on row 4 there, and just checking that's row 4. Yes, row 4. And Yeah, so Sam starting the season very well. He started in Bahrain. Absolutely fantastic battle between himself and Boy Better Know throughout the entirety of the race. Those two going at each other, and Scott just managing to take the race victory by 0.2 of a second. And then equally in Spain last week in his home Grand Prix, Sam unfortunately decided to come in and try and set or come in for another set of tyres. Whilst the top three of Scott, Scopefielder and Speed Queen all stayed out until the end on their initial set. After the wet period, they stayed out on their mediums to the end. Sam just couldn't quite make up that time, and he managed to come home fourth. So started off the season strong, but we'll look to see if in fact we'll go on board with the Williams driver. He's going slow under the bridge at the moment into the out of the second Degner. So we'll check in with Nicky. He's heading now down towards the Spoon curve on the soft compound tyre. Getting a good exit out of Spoon here. You want to make sure you give, there you go, nice, and don't run out onto the rumble strips. That will scrub off possibly a few hundredths of a second, but equally time is everything around here. You see De Lange is in fact gone top. Sorry, so I've missed that one, but De Lange 93 does pole position. So currently it's the Red Bulls that lock out the front row in first and second. He's done a 1:27.588. Absolutely fantastic time there for the Red Bull. We'll look to see what Nicky does when he comes across the line. Is it any good? It's the 10th position at the moment, so 1:28.566. So the times are getting quicker. We've got 1 minute and 50 seconds left in the session. And we'll see if we can catch anyone else on board at the moment. In fact, we'll go on board with Humbo Stone. Another driver that did very well last season in Season 6, picked up several race victories throughout the season. Unfortunately, missed the last two races of the season and couldn't fight with Scopefielder for the title. But Humbo Stone, another guy that's always on the pace, always very decent. And Humbo Stone, one of those guys tonight, possibly to be keeping an eye on, as he's got the McLaren going wide there, letting the guys through. So nicely out of the way for the McLaren outfit. Now Humberstone in that carbon black helmet, going around Spoon. Now we've got Rick has retired from the session, so Rick in fourth position, and with 58 seconds left, he's under threat there. So he's currently sitting on the second row of the grid, but he was almost all drivers apart from Nismax and Gavpig, so there are two Renaults deciding to start outside the top 10. Everyone else is out on track at the moment. Scott's on an outlap, Joel's on an outlap. We've got Humberstone who's going to come across the line. Never Misses just done a 1:30.157. He's in 16th. Humberstone does 1:28.520, so he takes time off, but he still sits in 10th position. Tony's going slow on his outlap. We'll see GP1 Alex will catch up with, doing very nicely at the moment as Renault retires from the session. So the second Haas driver down in 15th at the moment, deciding that he's not going to go any quicker. He's going to start down, possibly look at trying to avoid any sort of first lap contact or antics, which will be a very busy run down to turn 1. GP1 Alex is going to come across the line. He goes 0.3 slower than his previous best, so with no time left remaining, it looks like he did get across the line before time expired, but it looks like he would have taken life out of those super soft tyres. Yeah, he goes wide as everyone else on track. We've got Phil's retired from third position at the moment, for Phil deciding he's going to try and hedge his bets that he's going to start on the second row of the grid. We've still got the two Red Bulls heading up the front row. Speed Queen 80, she's heading around Spoon now. There's just under half a tenth between Scopefielder and Scopefielder goes provisional pole. It's a 1:27.221. Absolutely fantastic lap there from Scopefielder. Wow, what a lap. So De Lange 93 has got some work out. He's got to take on 3 Tech, and he's not going to do it. So it's only Speed Queen that's going to be able to come across the line. Is she going to improve at all? She goes 6th. It's a 1:27.958, but nowhere near the speed of Scopefielder. And look at the disparity in the times between the guys there. And Scopefielder absolutely nails that lap there, and De Lange 93 possibly just put himself in the pit lane and thought, you know what, I'm not even going to get anywhere close to that, so I'll come in and we'll start 1 and 2. But for the Red Bull team, I'm sure Christian Horner will be absolutely delighted with that, to lock out the front row. As there is your results. You've got the Swede of Scopefielder alongside the Dutchman of De Lange 93. The Red Bulls lock out the front row. Phil doing very well on the soft compound tyres in the McLaren. He comes in third. Rick WR88 is in fourth. Scott is in fifth with Speed Queen in sixth. GP1 Alex comes in seventh. Humbo Stone is in eighth. Joel and SJD make up row 5. Sam could only make it into 11th, so he will start on fresh tyres. So Sam's in 11th. Tony Wine 12th. Nicky is in 13th. Nismax 14th. Stifler is 15th. Gav Pig is in 16th, and Renner and Never Miss round out the final 2 on the grid. And wow, what a result there for Scopefielder, coming in with that 127.2. Absolutely electric lap there, and he'll be absolutely delighted with that. He gives himself the best opportunity heading down into turn 1. But will we see a little bit of a team battle between these two? Of course, Scopefielder has already picked up a couple of decent points this season. Does Delanga play rear gunner for him? Does he try and hold up the guys behind? But you saw that time from Phil MCFC on the soft compound tyres. He's got himself well into the mix to possibly cause an upset today, and put himself in third ahead of a lot of drivers that decided to set that qualifying lap on the super softs. Phil in the McLaren tonight, he's going to do very, very nicely indeed. So it'll be really interesting to see what his progress is throughout the race. And just before these guys head out on the formation lap, this is not the only race we'll be doing this season, this week, in Invictus. We've got tomorrow night, we've got Realistic Performance. It's Performance League 1 and Performance League 2. And then on Wednesday night, we have F1, F2 and F3. Some of the most competitive and fun esports racing you'll find anywhere on Formula 1 on PlayStation 4. So make sure you check in with all of our social media streams where you can find all of the details. You can find it at invictusracingleague.com. You can find it on Twitter at InvictusRL. You can find it on Instagram at InvictusRL. And you can go on to our Facebook group, Invictus Racing League, where you'll find all details about the league, whether you want to get yourself on the grid, whether you want to get yourself involved as a steward, as a commentator. We're happy to have you getting engaged in the community. We want to get as big as possible, and we're more than happy to get you within the community. But tonight, guys, love to see your thoughts in the comments. Who's got the best opportunity for a race win there? Is it the two Red Bulls at the front, as we've got the guys heading up for the formation lap? Is it the two Red Bulls? Is it Phil on the soft compounded tyres? Or do we see possibly a charge from the guys behind, possibly the two Mercedes of Joel or Boy Better Know? Do we see possibly Sam? He's starting outside of the top 10. Will he start on the medium tyres and try and run long on those mediums and try and finish off on a set of super softs at the end? He'll be absolutely lightning fast at the end, but it's a really interesting prospect of a race so far. Lights go green for the formation lap. These guys readying up the tyres to get ready. You see Scott there really getting the power down onto that into the Mercedes tyres early, spinning up those rear tyres, getting a lot of heat into them. Of course, you want to generate as much heat as possible because you want those tyres to be nice and warm before you get to this S section right now. So it's going to be a really interesting one here, because obviously you don't want to come into contact. You don't want to have to start or get disqualified from the formation lap. Your tyres will be stone cold, and through this first sector I found that if you start here without any sort of tyre warm-up, you can really struggle, and it feels like the car just does not want to turn for you. So make sure you get as much out of this formation lap as possible. So yeah, it's a track where mistakes will be punished, and so it's all about these guys, about keeping it on track and keeping it. But it's quite a narrow circuit. It's narrow but incredibly fast, so it's the guys have to make sure they're making the most of it, but equally going wheel to wheel, you've got to make sure you're not coming across into someone else's lines. Of course, we saw a huge accident in Bahrain between Stiffer 1980 and Nicky 995, which unfortunately collected with Mike, who can't be here tonight. But those three had a big accident in Bahrain. But it's all about just a little bit of spatial awareness, and equally, will we see anyone try and go side by side into 130R? It would be a pretty fantastic move, flat out through that final or through one of the final corners of the race down into turn 15, where the guys will be doing well in excess of 195 miles an hour. So Like I said, lateral G-force going through the neck of these guys around here is incredibly hard, and the force feedback equally they'll be feeling through those wheels will be absolutely immense in some of these corners. So we are coming now to line up on the start-finish line. Schofield of that blue and yellow helmet, emulating his country's national colours. He's going to bring it to the front row of the grid to make it an all front row Red Bull lockout. McLaren lining up in third at the moment. That was a fantastic camera view there, isn't it? It's wonderful as we go on board with De Lange. There's a slightly better one. And we see the cars slowly making their way into position for the 27 laps around the Suzuka Japanese Grand Prix, the No Assist Championship with Invictus Racing League. Let's go. There we go. So we got 1 light, 2, 3 lights, 4 lights, and 5 red lights. Feels like they're on forever, but they're not. They're out and we're off. And the 2 Red Bulls get a good start, but equally Phil looks like he's had a decent start. He's going to go side by side with De Lange down into the first corner. Is he going to try and go around the outside? No, De Lange covers him off very nicely, but Schofield has had a good getaway. There we go. Oh, looking at the back, GPL1 Alex looks like he's gone deep and the Sauber's gone wide. That's allowed a lot of cars through. Boy, Bodeno's done very nicely. He's maintained position in 5th position. Speed Queen, it's there. We've got the 2 Force Indias and the Force India and the Mercedes, trying to trade positions. Rick's up in 4th position at the moment. He's got Speed Queen and Scott all over the back of him. We'll check down back through the grid. These guys all battling over position in the first half of this first lap. Humberstone's up in 7th position. He's managed to jump Joel there. Looks like we've got almost a 3-wide battle. We'll check out what's going on back down there. It's Nevermiss who's going to try and look to go to the inside of the Haas there of Ren and I. Doesn't quite get the move done. We've got yellow in sector 1. Was it Stifler 1980? It looks like it may be. So Stifler has had a poor start to the lap. Is Rick and into Spoon. Rick has got up into 3rd position and Scott's followed him through, and so Phil's had the poor run through Spoon, and that's allowed Speed Queen, Boy Better Know, and Speed Queen, they're going to go side by side down into 130 yard. This is where it becomes brave. They do go side by side, but the McLaren's going to have the inside for the chicane. But Speed Queen's then going to have the inside for the 2nd section, and she gets the move done. Fantastic battling between these two as Schofielder starts. He comes across the first lap, but look at the gap he's got already. 2 seconds. He's already leading the race. So Schofielder, this first lap is already driven away from the rest of the back. So got a good view there. It was Joel cruising up to the back there of Humberstone in 7th position. 0.2 of a second separate those two at the moment. As De Lange we've lost, and he's put it into the wall on the entry of turn 5 and 6 there. So De Lange, absolute disaster for the Red Bull there, and Schofielder will realise he's lost that rear gunner that he was hoping for, and De Lange, absolute disaster for the Red Bull driver, and he ends his race on lap 2, and he'll be absolutely devastated of that. It looked like it was going to be a really good race. We've got a yellow in sector 1 and sector 2. Look at this battle between that Humberstone there came super hot into the hairpin at turn 10, just about missed the rear end of as we've lost Nikki as well. So Nikki retiring from the session, so Nikki down in 15th at the moment. That's another one of the quick drivers out. And look at Phil's all over the back of Speedway now. She's got up in 3rd position. Scott has done very well. We've lost, I've missed that as well. Rick has dropped right down, so Rick must have got involved in possibly that incident with De Lange, so he's dropped down to 14th, so that's promoted Scott up into 2nd position. Speed Queen's up into 3rd. She's got that McLaren of Phil all over the back of him, and Joel is doing very nicely for himself. He's up into 5th position at the moment, and he's starting to tag on to the back of the McLaren. So Joel is going to get a good run on the McLaren down into turn 1. So let's see, does he look for a move? Obviously he's got that grip advantage earlier in the race, but obviously the longer this time goes on, the more it's going to go back towards Phil when it comes to tyre wear. So it'll be interesting to see, does Joel possibly just try and get this move done sooner rather than later? He's going to hope that his teammate kind of pulls away and takes speed as Rick comes in. He's got a 5-second stop go, speeding the pit lane. Frustration for the Canadian driver there who started the session so well, and once again Rick having a superb qualifying session. When it comes to race time, he obviously must have got into a tangle possibly with De Lange, but Rick coming into the pit lane, he's picked up that 5-second penalty, so really gutting there for Rick after doing so well earlier in the session.
1 minute 30 seconds. 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 1 minute 30
Never Miss must have had an incident as well. He's 21 seconds behind Nismax, the two Renaults at the moment in 12th and 13th, but Never Miss 21 seconds down from them. Equally, Stifler 7 seconds down, so Never Miss, Stifler and Rick starting off the session pretty disappointingly for those three, as Stifler will definitely hope to have a slightly more positive race. He's back in the league after some time out, and he's a very quick drive on his day, so he'll be disappointed with his race tonight. In fact, what we'll do is we'll check in Speed Queen. She's starting to catch up to the back of Scott. Schofield is just getting quicker and quicker as Gav picks up a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings there. It looks like he may have run wide on the entry of 130R. A slight gaggle of cars here, leading from Joel all the way back down to Tony SJD, sorry, in the first Toro Rosso. You've got a short gap as Nismax does a 131.709 on the super soft tyres. So the South African, I believe, Nismax he's in the Renault tonight. He's done very nicely, getting himself into the fastest lap early in the race. We've done 4 laps of 27. So these, you see Humberstone pushing hard as GP1 Alex picks up a 3-second time penalty. Can't remember if that's his first or his second. But Alex currently sitting in 7th position. What we'll do, we'll leave this battle for the moment. In fact, we'll go on board with Speaker and we'll sit on board with the Ferrari driver as she follows the rear end of the Mercedes. A boy better knows. We enter Spoon Curve, and look at the gap that Schofield is starting to build. He's already up 4.3 seconds over these guys ahead, and they're all on the same tyre. They're on the super soft, so Schofield is just showing some really raw pace as Speed Queen's got a lot of overspeed on Scott heading down into 130R, but she's been passed by Phil lifting through 130R. She must have realised he was side by side, and Phil just sized down the inside, and now he's going to be all over the back end of Scott. The DRS is going to be activated. Will he be able to let it come into effect? But superb there. We completely missed that one. In fact, it looked like Speed Queen was getting some overspeed on Scott. She pulled out of the slipstream, thinking that she's going to try and go for an over and under. And just as she was about to turn in, there's the flash of that papaya orange McLaren coming down the inside into 130R. Fantastic move there from Phil. Back in the league after a bit of a breakout, but doing very nicely for himself, and currently sitting now in 3rd position. So I'd love to know your thoughts, guys, watching the stream, whether it's Sab, whether it's Aaron, whether it's Malk. Let me know what you think. How's the first start of the start of the race gone? It looks like possibly Humberstone's gone wide. He's dropped down to 9th position, so Humberstone possibly having a small mistake there as Tony Y picks up a 3-second time penalty. GP1 Alex, he's now 0.5 of a second behind Sam, so Sam is on the charge as Rick does the fastest up 131.613 on the soft compound tyre. So Rick now back on the charge. Now he's back out on a set of fresh tyres. But Sam, look at that, he's up into 6th position already, so good moves there from the Spanish driver. And there's going to be a battle for 2nd position now. That McLaren's going to be right in the toe of the Mercedes going into 130R. Round the outside would be incredibly brave. Not quite there. The McLaren. Oh, and there's Scotty's collective Speed Queen as well. That's a huge accident for the Mercedes. Looks like he's lost it on the exit of 130R, and he's come into contact with Speed Queen. Luckily for Speed Queen, she's not had any damage whatsoever. These two are going to have to really watch out. Yeah, look at the avoiding action there as they had to do, and how there hasn't been a VSC or a safety car call. There's a car right in the middle of the track on the entry to the final chicane, and Scott just lost control of the Mercedes on the exit 130R, absolutely careered into the barrier and came straight back out onto track surface and collected Speed Queen, and absolutely gutting for the 2-time race winner so far this season. And it means that so far that's promoted Phil up into 2nd position. Absolutely awful luck there for Scott, and he'll be really disappointed with himself that he's got into that position where the car's got from underneath him straight into the wall, and how that did not incur some sort of penalty is beyond me, because surely Charlie Whiting must have seen that and saw there was a car in the middle of the circuit. The avoiding action that these guys here, the two Renaults and the Haas, did to get around him was pretty impressive. You saw him, you're doing 190 miles an hour plus when you come round 130R, and to find a car in the middle of the track is one that you're not really going to miss. And the reaction time for these guys to get around that the retired car of Scott was pretty exceptional there. So congratulations and well done to all these drivers for some pretty decent car control there, as we've got a good battle here between Renault 9. He's going to be tucked in behind Gavpig. That fluorescent pink helmet illuminated within inside the cockpit of the yellow and black Renault. Oh, Renault's going to be right in behind him. Does he look to tuck it in? No, look at the Renault covering the inside of the chicane, but that's going to allow Renault to try and go around the inside and go around to the outside. And great move there from Renault and the Haas. Superb move. The Renault tried to cover off the inside, and he went, you know what, I'm just going to go around the outside. Oh, but he's clipped him, and there you go, he's gone round. So really unfortunate for Renault. An incident there between Gavpig and Renault will be really, really disappointed with that. It's not great to see between the two. Looked like Gav just got a little bit too hot behind him, but it's a poor racing incident. But we'll look to Renault. Obviously, he'll have to come in. Looks like it was a new front wing that will be needed, and it's going to drop him right down. So disappointing there for Renault after making such an excellent move around the outside of the chicane, that possibly a little bit too trigger happy on the throttle for the Renault, and it just meant he sent that Haas car around straight into the wall. And Renault, after all that good work to get back up, he's had that all undone in a flash of a second. And we'll check on board with Joel, who's up in 4th position. So Joel doing very nicely. He's sitting behind Speed Queen. So Joel now the lone Mercedes left in the race after the retirement of Scott 2 laps ago. So he's going to look to bring some points home to Brackley for the Mercedes outfit, as Phil picks up a 3-second time penalty. So that could be crucial come the end of the race. He's currently sitting just ahead of Speed Queen, but they've got DRS on him, so he's not pulling ahead. So 3 seconds could be crucial come the end of it. So it's going to be, look at this battle here between 4th. You've got Speed Queen, Joel, and Sam has done absolutely superbly. It quietly made his way up from 11th position. Now he's sitting on the rear wing and right into the gearbox of that Mercedes ahead, as Gav picks up a 3-second time penalty. So yeah, Sam, look at that, he's getting closing up on the medium compounded tyres, so he's going to be able to run long into this session. So almost running into the back of the Mercedes there, but would love to know your thoughts with when it comes to this. Renault picks up a 5-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. We'll look to see if Renault makes it out. It possibly maybe a terminal issue for the Haas driver, frustration possibly boiling over for him as he goes in hot into the pit lane. As look at the pace that we've got here with the Williams on the medium tyre. Of course, these super softs are going to start to go off now, so this is going to be the crossover period where Sam is going to be right. And look at the overspeed that he's got in the slipstream compared to that Mercedes, and he's going to get the move done before 130R. Joel just lets him go, and he thinks, you know what, in this case it might be easier. Does he look to go back down the inside of the chicane? It would be a bit of a risky move, but no, it might be easier just to try and sit in the toe of this Williams. Or does Joel come in? No, he comes in. He decides, you know what, I've been passed by a guy on the mediums, it's time to come off these and set on a set of fresh boots, possibly get the undercut on the guys ahead of him. So Sam now, he can now cruise up to the rear end of Speed Queen, and look how quickly he's doing it already. He's already 0.6 of a second behind the Ferrari. So Sam doing exceptionally well. The number 99 Williams just really doing what he did in Barcelona last week, where he just seemed to be on it lap for lap and sitting in some really consistent lap times. And look how much he's closing up to the rear end of Speed Queen, and he's going to have another decent run on the Ferrari down into the hairpin. Coming out the second Degner now, he's going to be tucked up nicely behind her. Does it go for a lunge down to the inside? No, not quite. You could see Speed Queen covering off the apex there. That's going to make her slow off of the exit of the corner, so it means all the way down to Spoon. Sam is going to be tucked in nice and tightly in behind that Ferrari. Does he try to make a move into Spoon? It would have to be very late indeed. No, best thing to do here is just bide your time, be a little bit patient. This is where he can get his move done, whip it up into overtake mode and get that move done before 130R, like he did on Joel last lap out. You can see now all she's going to be able to see in her rear wing was white and blue. Now she's not going to see anything because it's right in front of her, and he gets the move done. Runs a little bit wide there, but it looks like he manages to recover. I didn't have, unfortunately, what Scott had, where he lost the rear end of the car, but Sam here doing very nicely indeed. Speed Queen, she decides, you know what, Joel came in, she doesn't want him to get that undercut on him, so Sam has now moved up into second position because the leader, Schofielder, he's come into the pit lane. So possibly the battle later in this race will be between Sam and Schofielder. We'll see if there's anyone else on track at the moment on the exits of the pit lane. At the moment, Schofielder comes out in 6th position, so not too much traffic ahead of him, so that's good to see. Tony Y is the closest ahead of him, but then there's a big gap up ahead to Nismac 7 in 4th position at the moment. So Schofielder, he's going to want to hopefully use these mediums early on and just possibly clear that Toro Rosso as soon as possible. Of course, there's no team orders between the Toro Rosso and the Red Bull, so he's going to have to get it done on track. There's not going to be any conversation as Stifler picks up a 3-second time penalty. As Schofielder comes up to turn 10, locks up the front left. Of course, these mediums will take a lap or two to get up to temperature, get up to pace a little bit. They will feel a little bit soft and a little bit like it really is on cold mediums. Does feel like you're having to really throw it into some corners to get some heat into them, because otherwise they just don't feel responsive at all. So it's all about who can regulate that temperature into the tyre as soon as possible. It's Michael, don't worry, I have got the comments in front of me. I can see exactly what you're saying. I can read what's going on. So I will put the tyres on for you. There you go. I just don't like to have it so there's too much going on the screen at one time, but you can see Phil's on the soft, so he started on them. As Schofielders look, he's going to clear Tony possibly even letting him go past, knowing that he was going to be quicker. Tony's done 10 laps on those soft tyres already, so allows what was leader of the race go back through. So that's really aided Schofielder, but it was around 20 seconds for a pit stop, and he's currently sitting 19 seconds behind Phil, so it's going to be close at the moment. He's going to need to knock this time down. Possibly now he's got a bit of fresh air in front of him, he'll be able to put in some hot laps. So it's gonna be close between the two, but we'll see if there is a battle. In fact, there is. We'll go on board with Sam, and he's going to be tucked in behind. He's going to be tucked in behind the McLaren. We'll look to see 6th gear, 7th gear, up into top gear. He's sitting in the slipstream of that McLaren. He's not quite close enough to get it done into 130R, but look at this overspeed. Does he go for a lunge into the chicane? It looks like he's going to. Phil's going to have to watch out because Sam is going to come steaming through, and he gets it done. So good move there from Sam. Medium tyres, and he's managed. There you go. Look at the gap. He's already pulled out 0.4 of a second with the medium tyres, living up to the distance of only 11 laps, compared to the soft tyres. Soft tyres will slowly start to go off now. Mediums have got a little bit more life left in them. So we'll see who else is on track battling. We've got Speed Queen. She managed to stay ahead of Joel, so Joel still just about behind the Ferrari Speed Queen. I'm sure Scott will be watching the stream and hoping that his teammate's able to come home and pick up some decent points for the Mercedes team after that unfortunate incident. In fact, huge incident he had there. And hopefully the car will be able to be fixed in time for next week, and we'll be over in Europe for the Austrian Grand Prix in Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. So a very quick circuit there. So a bit of a transition. We'll look to see the guys obviously going from one track where it's incredibly fast to another track which is equally fast, and Red Bull Ring in Austria, another one of the drivers' favourites. Very decent track for fighting and overtaking. A lot of overtaking positions there. The Speed Queen currently leading Joel V520 by 0.7 of a second. We've got Stifler 1980. He's 0.7 of a second behind Tony Y at the moment. Stifler's done 10 laps on the super soft, so he's going to look to come in shortly. Tony's managed to come out ahead of him on the medium, so he's done on his first lap out, as Phil is now into the pits. So that's released Sam, or I say he's released Sam. He was already building a huge lead over the McLaren, but we'll look to see, does Phil have the time, or did he? This is where possibly we'll see if Speed Queen and Joel are able to jump the McLaren. Of course, Phil done very nicely indeed to get ahead, but where is the McLaren? It's going to be very, very close between the two. Speed Queen and Joel coming down the main straight. They're coming past the pit exit, and they're going to go side by side into turn one. How is this going to play out? Oh, he sides into the middle, but look at the tyre. It's just not enough temperature in it to throw it in that quickly. He knew that the Ferrari and the Mercedes were going to be right behind him, and he just had to try and cut off and cut across the nose of that Mercedes, and he just about held it. And luckily for Phil, he's just about managed to stay ahead of Joel, but he's been jumped by Speed Queen. But excellent racing from these three, having a race-long battle so far. And we'll pause to breathe every now and then, have a little bit of a drink, because you know what, there's absolute fantastic racing going. Oh, as you see the McLaren going deep into turn 10 there at the hairpin, that's going to just possibly light up Joel's eyes a little bit. He'll know that those tyres will take a lap and a half to warm up, so this is his opportunity. If he's going to get the move done, he needs to get it done now. But Phil's got that advantage. He's gone soft to medium, so he's got 4 laps extra life on the tyres. There's 14 laps left to go, including this one. So we've got, I'd say 13 and a half laps left to go, I should say, with Sam coming across the line. He's done 13 laps on the mediums. He's going to finish off strong, but what will be interesting to see, does Sam go a little bit more conservative? Does he go from the mediums to the softs, or does he go aggressive and decide to go for the mediums to the super softs and try and cover off Schofielder? Schofielder's currently 18 seconds behind, so he's within the pit stop window, so Schofielder would take the lead if there was a fight now, as Humberstone and SJD, and there's the Toro Rosso going wide, and we just catch on board of SJD in coming majorly. Or as SJD picks up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles there, and SJD missing his braking point massively there as he went in side by side with Humberstone into turn 1, and luckily just about keeping it out of the wall. And SJD will be, as never missed, picks up a 5-second stop go penalty, so the guy's really struggling to get it slowed down for the pit lane tonight. We'll check back on board here with Phil. He's now 7/6 of a second behind Speed Queen, so possibly using these fresher tyres to his advantage now that they're coming up to temperature. This is where you're going to start attacking that Ferrari. So yeah, guys, would love to hear your thoughts. Going back through the comments, where do you think the race will be won and lost today? Is it going to be a battle between Sam and Scope? Is it just too much difference between Speed Queen and Phil and Joel now? Can they? That's a lot of time to catch up between the two. It's definitely always Phil getting much closer. He's going to be well within DRS range of the of the Ferrari. Sorry, as we get through the final corner now. Phil does the fastest lap, and it shows you how much more speed he's got for the Ferrari. Is Speed Queen going to cover off the inside? No, Phil's going to go for it. Speed Queen possibly going to try and go side by side. There's not much grip on the outside there, and yeah, Phil squeezing that McLaren through. So Phil doing very nicely, gets himself back up onto the podium. So good start to the race for the McLaren. Managed to get a great lap in qualifying. Started on the harder tyres, and a good first stint has meant that his second stint he's come out and he's up into 3rd position. He's jumped back ahead of Speed Queen, who jumped him in the pit lane. But it does mean that Phil can now start possibly looking at his own race and trying to come up to the back end of Schofielder once again. But Scope now 18.6 seconds behind Sam, who's comfortably leading out front at the moment. So Sam doing all he needs to at the moment. He's done 14 laps on those mediums, so we'll start feeling the effects in the next few laps. You can probably stretch these mediums out around 15 to 17 laps if you've looked after those tyre pressures. Oh, is Joel really kicking the rear end of that Mercedes out there, almost Tokyo drift styling it on the exit of Spoon there. So yeah, it's a really nice bit of car control there from Joel, possibly the tyre temperatures a little bit high on the exit spoon there, so just has to check them on the entry to the chicane here. You don't want to spin up those rear tyres too much, and that's one thing you struggle with around here. Rear tyre temperatures can go through the roof occasionally, so we've got a yellow in sector 2 as Sam pits from the lead, and he has come out behind Scopefielder. We'll look down and see where that yellow flag is. Was it Humberstone? It is. We catch on board with Humberstone, just about missed by Rick there, deciding to... I'm sure you guys can let me know what that is, as yeah, Humberstone not ending the race gracefully there, and well, it's in some way gracefully with pirouetting, but yeah, decides to go off, and possibly a little bit of a disappointment, frustration from Humberstone after what was the good start to the session. Unfortunately didn't manage to transpire over to the race, and looked like he lost it on the exit of Spoon Curve, just missed by Rick there, and Rick coming in now in 12th position. So we're now down to 14 runners in the race. As Mike says, Sam will probably go for the super soft for an ultra fast last stint in the end. If I was a betting man, knowing that he's only well, if I would have bet him, I probably would have gone for the same thing, but he's gone on to the soft, so he's gone for the more conservative route. I probably would have tried to stretch those mediums out for a little bit longer and gone on to super softs, because he is in a decent battle with Scopefielder. In fact, he's making up a little bit of time on the Swedish driver. He's got down to 1.5 seconds, so it's going to be interesting later in the race. Possibly Sam, well, I say that, the time is now coming down considerably, so Scope possibly a little bit slow through sector 1 there. So Scope losing a little bit of time to Sam in second position at the moment, and Sam possibly will be eyeing up his first race victory after feeling slightly aggrieved that he was unable to pick it up in Bahrain after that fantastic battle with Scott, and then equally the race victory was probably well within his grasp in Barcelona. That late stop unfortunately put paid to that, and so he'll feel that this one possibly, if he's able to get past Scopefielder, is something that he's been rewarded nicely for after a good start to the season. Joel now doing very nicely, 7/10 of a second behind Speed Queen. These three still close quarters with each other. Never miss going slow there on the exit of 130R. Looked like Rick and him was side by side, possibly through 130R. We've got a yellow in sector 2 as well. We'll look to see if anyone loses any time, as Never Miss loses it off the bump on the exit of the final corner there. So like I said earlier, that bump can catch any driver out at any point. It's not it's a 5-second stop go for exceeding penalty, a 5-second stop go for Joel there. That's a pretty devastating penalty for the Mercedes driver, as Sam picks up is Never Miss really struggling there by the looks of it with tyre temperatures, and he's gone for a little bit of a pirouette. You can see guys now starting to struggle. Sorry, missed that one. I do apologise guys. Sam has taken the lead of the race, and yeah, sorry, on board with Never Miss, trying to look at the him catching up after this, but Sam has taken the lead of the race, and now starting to stretch out a lead already. So yeah, Sam making this reverse strategy, of course, started on the mediums, moves on to the softs. He's going to be fast at the end. Scopefielder, who's already done 8 laps, and there's the Sauber of possibly of Never Miss. Looks like he was struggling on earlier in sector 1, so Never Miss dropping now a lap down. But Sam 0.6 of a second behind Scopefielder, so Scope's got a lot of work to do if he's going to make this work. He's going to have to hope that these mediums slowly come back to him towards the end of the stint, and those softs go off a lot quicker than his mediums do, because otherwise it might be a case that the Williams drives away and takes his victory at a canter. And we'll look down. Joel still sitting in that 7/10 window behind Speed Queen over 4th at the moment. We've got a yellow in sector 1, and it's Rick that's retired from the session. So Rick, unfortunate session for him once again, having a very strong, as Never Miss equally retired. So 2 quick retirements there. So we're now down to 12 runners. So a real battle of attrition here. We've lost 6 drivers already, and we've still got 8 laps left to run. As Joel's lost a little bit of time there, but Speed Queen's made up some time. She's 0.6 of a second behind Phil. Phil currently still sitting in that 3rd position on the podium at the moment. He'd be absolutely delighted with himself if he was able to take a podium position on his return back to the no assist league. But Speed Queen behind, you can never counter out. She's always well on form. She always knows where to put that car. Oh, as you see, yeah, a slight mistake there from the McLaren driver on the exit of turn 10. So this is where Speed Queen might be smelling a little bit of blood in the water, and when she gets in a mood like that, you often find yourself sitting behind her quite soon, because she'll find a way past, and she's incredibly hard person to defend against. She'll put the car in almost impossible positions. She'll get the move done. As Phil running slightly wide, Speed Queen had a much better run through 130R, and she's going to be well into the gearbox of that McLaren heading down the main straight. So it's up into overtake mode for the McLaren, Ferrari. McLaren will have a lot less speed down this main straight, and does she try and go for the move? It's going to have to be late, and they're going to go side by side into turn 1. Now be careful with each other. This is tricky, and just like how Phil did to her a few laps ago, she returns the favour, and the number 58 Ferrari gets the move done. And Speed Queen moves up into 3rd position and up in the lead. Look at the gap that Sam's already pulled out to Scope. So Scope's already 3.1 seconds behind. So as Tony Y picks up a 5-second stop-go penalty. So track limits around here really upsetting these guys, and yeah, a lot of stop-go penalties for track limits we've seen tonight. So possibly some of these guys running wide. I would imagine places like 130R and into the chicane, and equally I find one of the places that people run wide is down into turn 1, trying to take a very wide line into turn 1. It's very easy just to use up a little bit too much track room, and you'll find yourself in trouble with the stewards. Here's Phil now starting to drop back from the back of Speed Queen. He's not quite as close, and equally Joel now starting to come under threat, become a threat for the McLaren. So even though he's done a couple laps less on the tyres, as he locks up the front right there, as Sam does the fastest lap. So yeah, look at this, Sam. As Mike says, it's going to be a cruise home for Sam at the moment, and obviously you don't want to jinx the driver whatsoever, but 4.3 seconds lead he's got at the moment. He's on the faster tyre. Looks like Scopefielder doesn't quite have the pace to keep up with him on these medium tyres, and we thought at the start of the race that Scopefielder was just going to drive away with it. He did absolutely fantastically well in the first stint, but Sam started outside that top 10. He's just managed to bide his time and quietly make his way up through the grid. Hasn't picked up any penalties, hasn't got into a tangle with anyone, and he's come into the lead of the race, and looks like he's going to try and control it from the front. Possibly the McLaren, maybe having dealt with a bit of tyre temperature issues over the last 2 laps. Looks like he's starting to get a little bit racier, so maybe let his tyre temperatures just drop down a little bit more. That's allowing him to push a little bit harder. Or is it a case of a little bit of cat and mouse between these two? Speed Queen just taking, like, you know, I'll take a lead ahead, you take a lead ahead, and we'll just pull each other along and hope to cruise up to Scopefielder, because they're only 3.2 seconds behind him at the moment. But the McLaren, look at this, he's going to be close into 130R. It's a brave move going side by side. Speed Queen has to bail out of that one. She has to run wide, and she gets back on. So Joel now, he's going to try and go to the inside as Speed Queen picks up a penalty. Oh, those two, as Joel forces his way through and gets the move done. So Speed Queen going from 3rd to 5th in a matter of 1.5 corners, and there's a 3-second time penalty for race leader Sam. So let's take that win off the table. Oh, it's Joel and Phil coming into contact there, just about maintaining themselves in a straight line. That could have really turned the cars around if looked like the McLaren had gone deep into turn 1. Joel tried to sneakily get up the inside, and Phil shut that door, and the side pod there just about saved the two from going around. And yeah, so not to my knowledge that Schofield has got any penalties. So as long as the Swedish driver keeps it in a straight line, he just needs Sam to possibly pick up a second penalty, as he's now dropped to 6 seconds behind. So possibly Sam may be bailed out by his raw pace at the moment. It's Joel now looking very racy. He's going to get that move done into Spoon. Sides down the inside there, and really possibly catching the McLaren slightly unaware. And Joel was going a little bit tentatively on the brakes into Spoon, but it does mean he's going to be under threat now, down into 130R from the both of them. Speed Queen still looking racy. They're going to go side by side once again. Joel running out wide, but he's managed to come back on track. But these three having an absolutely fantastic battle for the last 20 or so laps. It's been a real joy to watch them go, and we'll try and catch up with others on the grid. I'm well aware that as we see the McLaren going around the outside there into turn one, the fantastic move DRS aided by Phil, moved back up into podium positions. And these three, if they want to choose a position to be in, then feel free. But if it feels like a little bit of a case of follow the leader at the moment. They're just swapping positions and just trading places. So Joel currently now sitting in 4th position. He's got Speed Queen 0.4 of a second behind. He's only 0.3 of a second behind Phil. And I don't think we should bet on these guys finishing in these positions whatsoever, because it could be, with 4 laps left to go, anyone's guess of where we'll see any of them finish. Of course, Joel has got that large penalty to come, so that is something we'll have to take into consideration, as Joel unfortunately does have that 5-second stop go that he picked up for the track limits earlier, so that will most likely be doubled if he doesn't stop in the next 4 laps, which is unlikely. So Joel possibly fighting over a little bit of a lost battle at the moment, but it will be a moral victory if he's able to finish on the podium. But equally, we'll look to see if the stewards would want to review that 5-second stop go that was awarded. We've still got these three battling over 3rd, 4th and 5th. It's the No Assist Championship with Invictus Racing League, Monday nights at 8 PM every week. 12 race long calendar. We're on round 3 of round 12. Next week we go to Austria. Make sure you check us out, invictusracingleague.com. Check out our socials at InvictusRL on Twitter and Instagram, and Invictus Racing League on Facebook. And make sure you get yourself on the website, check out the league tables, find out where everyone is. If you want to join up, go to the sign up page and get yourself on the grid. We are always looking for new members. Speed Queen now looking very racy behind Joel. It's allowed Phil to get away ever so slightly, but the Ferrari possibly taking a little bit of time just to compose herself, get back into the groove and save a little bit of battery, as Joel kicking the rear end of that Mercedes out again. Once again, he seems to be holding that car at a 45-degree angle over several times over this race. So that's going to really allow Speed Queen to cruise up to the back of him on the exit of Spoon there. So Joel's going to come under major threat from the Ferrari as we run up towards 130R. In fact, he looks like he improved a little bit through through Spoon there, got a little bit of a better run. You can see the McLaren pulling to the left-hand side of the track. They're trying to break any sort of toe. He realises he's got a little bit of a gap ahead of him now. It's over a second, so he's going to be out of Joel's going to be out of DRS, so he's not going to be able to defend from Speed Queen by using DRS in the McLaren. So she's going to have DRS and probably overtake mode. We'll look to see, does she try and go around the outside into turn 1? It's going to be too wide into the first corner. Oh, great camera view there as Phil goes wide once again. He picks up a 3-second time penalty, and look at what's happened. It means that Joel's now back up into 3rd position. So Phil once again going wide into turn 3, and that's allowed Phil, that's relegated Phil down to 4th position. Speed Queen, that really put pay to her overtake that she was looking at shaping up onto Joel. She had to get out of the throttle because in was that McLaren coming right back onto the racing line and right into where she was planning on putting that red Ferrari. Oh, as Joel's lost control and he's hit the wall by the looks of it. So there is the incident. There is that one mistake that I said might happen. It takes absolutely nothing to get a mistake around here, and it's just a fraction of a second. And unfortunately for Joel, he's lost it on the exit of the second Degner underneath the bridge. We saw Nikki 9095 do that a few seasons ago from the race lead, I believe it was, and Nikki lost it in exactly the same place, went into the wall. And unfortunately for Joel, he's done it tonight. He's now dropped down to 6th position. So possibly an end to the race for Joel, and it's an absolutely disastrous race for the Mercedes team. So yeah, real shame there for Joel, who was battling so well with the others over 3rd, 4th and 5th. But now it will be a battle between Speed Queen and Phil for the final place on the podium. Phil, of course, has picked up, I believe, at least 1, if not 2 penalties. So yeah, Joel coming in, he has to. Looking at missing that front right-hand end plate. And it's going to be that 5-second penalty that he was awarded, as GP1 Alex picks up another time penalty, so possibly putting himself, he's currently sitting in 5th position, so good result at the moment for the Sauber, but looks like he might come under threat from this man, SJD 1988. SJD's won 4 laps fewer on his current medium tyres, so he's going to be much quicker than the Sauber for the final 2 laps of the race, but possibly on time penalties, GP1 Alex might drop down and lose that top 5 position. But Sam, with 2 laps, or 1.5 laps left to go, look at that, 10 seconds he's got that lead up to at the moment, so he's going to comfortably take the race win today, and it's been well deserved for him because he's been absolutely on fire. Quietly made his way up through the pack, got up into that position, used the reverse strategy to what everyone else has gone for, and started on fresh mediums in 11th position, got all the way up until lap 16. He's come in, he's done 10 laps on the softs. He's been much quicker the second half of the races. We'll check on board, sorry, with Speed Queen. She's now back up to the rear end, but yeah, Sam's done fantastically well, and what we'll do is we'll go on board with him as soon as possible. We'll just see if Speed Queen could get the move done on the McLaren down into turn 1. Yeah, Mike's saying Speed Queen not giving up on this, and she's not at all. Although I believe she may get it on penalties. Obviously she won't know that, as Gav picks up a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings for the Renault driver, down in 12th position. So disappointing race for Gav. We know he can be a quick driver, and so it'll be disappointing for him, stuck down outside of the points. Stifler 1980, after that first lap incident, he was well down the order, but he's currently going to be taking home a championship point for the season, so there's always a positive to come from that. Although it may only be 1 point, you never know at the end of the season. That may mean the difference between one position or another in the championship, as SJD picks up a 3-second time penalty. So on the last lap of the race, SJD has picked up a penalty that might aid GP1 Alex in maintaining that 5th position, but will stay with Sam for the final few corners of the race. Will keep it tabs with Speed Queen 80 as she follows Phil MCFC for the final sector, but it's going to be the Williams driver and the team at Grove in Oxfordshire are going to be absolutely delighted with this. But Samuel Beppetto will come across the line, take his first victory in Invictus Racing League in the No Assist Championships, and congratulations to Sam. He's absolutely blitzed the field ahead of Scopefielder. Scopefielder does very well to come in second. He'll be disappointed, but it's a good podium for him. Phil just about manages to come across the line in third, but he is beaten on penalties by Speed Queen by half a second. So gutting there for Phil. He comes home half a second behind Speed Queen. GP1 Alex does maintain 5th ahead of SJD. So SJD, that final penalty really will hurt him. It meant that GP1 Alex was able to come home in 5th position, SJD in 6th. It's going to be Nizmak 7th. He's going to come across the line in 7th position on track. He's got Joel V520, who will probably not be a particularly happy man as Nizmax crosses the line now. He does go into 7th position. Joel is going to come across the line. Yeah, he won't be particularly happy with how his race ended. He was doing so well. He comes across the line in 8th position. Tony comes across the line in 9th, and Stifler will be the final points paying position driver. He in fact jumps Tony, so Stifler goes up into 9th position, taking home 2 championship points. And then our final drivers on track, you've got Renner 9. He will come home, and he will not be a happy man off, obviously, after that spin due to contact with one of the Renaults earlier in the race. But Renner 9 will down in 11th place, with Gav Pig in 12th. And hopefully I can now breathe, because what a race that was. Absolutely fantastic battles throughout. We saw a fantastic win. There it is. Sam will be absolutely delighted with that win. He really deserved it, and the Spanish driver will be absolutely thrilled with his pace throughout the entire race. Was able to really dominate the pack from the front as soon as he cruised up to the back of Schofield, and unfortunately we didn't manage to catch the lead change on screen, and I apologise for that, but he does take the race victory for Williams. Schofielder in 2nd, and Speed Queen makes it a consecutive podium. And there are your final standings for the race. It's Sam takes the race victory. He does it in 41 minutes and 54 seconds ahead of Scopefielder in 2nd. Speed Queen comes home in 3rd, with Phil MCFC in 4th. GP1 Alex comes in 5th, with SJD in 6th. Nizmax 7 is in 7th, with Joel V520 in 8th. Stifler 1980 is in 9th, with Tony Wythe picking up the final point in 10th. Gav is in 11th, with Renner down in 12th. Rick, Never Miss, Scott, Nicky, Delanger and Humbostone all non-finished, with Delanger unfortunately crashing out on lap 2, and the Dutchman will be absolutely disgusted with that after such a fantastic qualifying session for Delanger, that that slight mistake into the S section on lap 2 really cost him. So yeah, fantastic race. Congratulations to Sam, congratulations to Scope and to Speed Queen, and thanks everyone for watching and for getting involved in the stream. It's always good to see the comments lighting up, to see you getting involved. Let me know what you're thinking, whether I've missed the action or not. I hope that I've brought you an entertaining race. It was really a decent show put on by these guys tonight, so congratulations to the entire field. It was really fun to watch it. Some absolutely electric battles going on up and down the grid, whether it be from 1st all the way down to 18th position. Qualifying was a very interesting session, so I hope that the guys, the rest of the Invictus Racing Leagues, will be watching this, hawkeyeing, and make sure they've got some eyes on the strategy for tomorrow night for Performance 1, Performance 2, and then on Wednesday night, F1, F2 and F3. And like always, make sure you check out all the social media channels where you can find all of the stream links. Make sure you follow us here for the No Assist Championship. If you follow the stream, we're only six followers away from the elusive 50. We're all so close to being able to be Twitch affiliated, which would be huge for this channel. So yeah, make sure, if you're not already, follow the channel. Equally, follow all the social media channels. Make sure you get yourself on the grid by going to our website, invictusracingleague.com. Go to the sign up page, and if you'd like to speak to any of the admins or the site directors, who'll be more than happy to talk you through the process of signing up to get on the grid. But for tonight, thank you very much for joining me. I will be on track tomorrow night in Japan for for Performance 1, and equally on track in F3 on Wednesday, so make sure you catch up with us there. But if not, I'll be in the commentary box next Monday for the Austrian Grand Prix. So looking forward to that one. Another track that I really enjoy racing around. I equally enjoy commentating around. Always fun battles going on around there. So thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing it to you tonight. And hopefully I will see you tomorrow night or Wednesday night. If not, definitely join us next Monday. Thank you very much, and good night.